Okay, right. So in today's webinar, we are going to be looking at reasoning and word problems with fractions. Okay. Now, let me make something really clear, and you're probably already very aware of what I'm about to tell you, and that is you're never going to do any exam. Let's forget the 11 plus exam for a minute. Even if we're talking about SATs or your GCSEs when you're a bit older, or your A levels when you're a bit older, or if you go to a university and you do maths there, you're always going to have to be able to do fractions. Okay, it's just one of those things that's gonna follow us around like a bad smell. Okay. Now the thing with fractions is fractions does get harder the older we get. So we need to make sure that we're keeping on track with our fractions knowledge because obviously it won't seem like it's getting more difficult. For example, if we're really amazing at year 5 fractions, then we're going to be really good at year 6 fractions. And then year 7 fractions will be easier to understand. Okay? But if we struggle with fractions now, it might become a problem. But we're not going to struggle with them. Okay? I'm gonna prove it to you today, okay? So specifically, we're looking at reasoning and word problems with fractions. Okay? So it's kind of when I say reasoning and word problems, what does anyone know what I mean? Let me ask Scarlett because she was eager. Scarlett, what do I mean by reasoning with fractions? What's the difference between reasoning and just that standard fractions?
Like a word problem, like it's like in words, like Sam has 10 marbles and he gives one um 1/5 of them to James.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. With reasoning, we'd usually expect lots and lots of words in the question, 100%. But there's something else to it as well. Let me ask Annabelle. Annabelle, what else can we say about reasoning? Reasoning in maths? What do you reckon?
That reasoning is like more like harder and trickier.
And what makes it harder and trickier? You are right, but what makes it harder and trickier?
I think what makes it harder is that like Scarlett said, it's in words and it's not just like numbers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you're both correct. It's in words, but there's something more to it. Let me tell you, right? With reasoning, it means that we've got to think about things in a slightly different way to usual. We've got to use a bit more logic. Sometimes it involves us doing a bit of arguing. Okay, a standard fraction question might be like what you said a minute ago, which is what is 1/5 of 10 marbles? But with reasoning, you're going to see in a minute, we kind of have to decide how to answer the question because it's not going to demand that we answer the question in a usual way. We're going to have to kind of look at it and decide what it is we need to do. Okay, so it involves a lot more complex thinking, but don't you worry because we're going to go through this together slowly. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do the first one all by myself. And then we'll have an opportunity to do the rest all by ourselves. Okay, so let's look at number one. Right, number one says a jar contains 72 sweets. 1/12 of the sweets, well, sorry, 1/12 of the sweets are chewy. She removes the chewy sweets as she does not like them and eats half of the sweets that remain. How many sweets are left in the jar? Now, firstly, number one tip here, guys. When you read a question like that, it's very normal to feel a bit overwhelmed. It's very normal to think, whoa, there's a lot of information in there. I'm not going to be able to answer this one. I'm just going to guess, okay? But let's try not to have that attitude, okay? I know sometimes we might have to have a guess, but if we just take it one step at a time, okay, it will become a lot easier to manage, okay? So let's think about it. Let's do it one, let's break it up, okay? So the first bit says a jar contains 72 sweets, okay? So here's my jar. Now I don't know what I'm doing with my jar just yet. All I know is it has 72 sweets, okay? Now when you're in a timed exam, you haven't got to draw a jar or anything. You might just write the number 72, okay? Before you're working out. The next bit says 1/12 of the sweets are chewy. Now that part is clearly relevant to the question, okay? Because we know because it mentions chewy again later on, but also because why would they tell us that if it wasn't relevant? Yeah. So 1/12 of the sweets are chewy. So before we do anything else, we must figure out how many chewy sweets there are. Now we know that that 1/12 of the sweets are chewy. We know that. But we need a number. We need to express it as a number. How many exactly? Okay, so we need to find 1/12 of 72. Okay, so let's write it. 1/12 looks like this, doesn't it? 1/12 of 72. Okay, right. So let's find 1/12 of 72. Now, this is the most important part of the question, knowing how to find a fraction of an amount. To find a fraction of amount, what we do is we get our quantity, which is 72. So that's our quantity, yeah? So I'm going to write it down here. We divide that by our denominator, which is the bottom number of the fraction, so 72. Look at me writing sideways. I don't know why I do it. I'm going to try and change that from now on. 72 divided by 12. And then finally, we multiply by the numerator, multiply by 1. Now, let yourselves feel a little bit confused. It's okay, all right? If I've thrown a lot of information at you, it's fine. The only way that we're going to get used to this is by dealing with that information, okay? And eventually getting used to it, okay? So don't worry if you're a bit confused, okay? So to find 1/12 of 72, I get my quantity. So I'm going to write it up here, yeah? Quantity, Q. I divide it by the denominator, which is 12. So divided by D. And then I multiply it by the numerator. So multiplied by N, which is 1. Okay, so that's all I'm doing at the moment. Right, okay, so what's 72 divided by 12? Let's do that bit first. 72 divided by 12. All right, let's count up in my 12 times table. So 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. So I counted 6 12s. So 72 divided by 12 is 6. 6 multiplied by 1 is still 6. So 1/12 of 72 is 6. Now I've done that bit. I know how many chewy sweets there are. Now I'm going to continue with the question because I figured out that bit of information. Okay, so she removes the chewy sweets, so 6 of them. She removes the chewy sweets as she does not like them. Okay, so let's take 6 sweets away from this jar. We're removing the chewy sweets from this jar. There are 72. We remove 6. What are we going to be left with? 72 subtract 6, which is 66. Okay, so we've got 66 sweets left. So she removes the chewy sweets, so now she's got 66 left, and eats half of the sweets that remain. So 66 sweets remain, she eats half of them. So if she eats half of 66, how much does she eat? What's half of 66? 33. So she eats 33 sweets. Okay, so if she eats 33, we need to take that away from what remained, 66. So what's 66 subtract 33? Of course, it's 33 again. And that's our answer, guys. Okay, now you are feeling one of 3 ways. Okay, you're either feeling number 1, that was very easy to follow. I understood every word of it. I've got no issue with this sort of question, which is great. You might be number 2, which is, okay, I kind of get it. I'm a little bit confused. It was a bit tricky, but I'm not totally lost. Or you might be number 3, which is, I didn't get that at all. Now, please don't worry if you are number 3 or number 2. Please do not worry, okay? We've got a few more questions to do. And by the end of the last question, I'm convinced you're going to find yourself at number 1, or at the very least, number 2. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you another question, and I want you to give it a go all by yourself. Then we'll go through the answer together. Okay. So I reckon 2 minutes. Yeah, let's have 2 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes. Here's your question, guys. Jacob, that's absolutely fantastic. Scarlett, that's absolutely fantastic. How brilliant. Very, very good. This is not an easy question. And if you find it tricky, please do not worry, okay, guys? Do not worry. Let's have another 30 seconds, okay? Okay, so a little bit longer. You're all doing very well. Even if you can't quite get the correct answer, please do not worry. We're going to get there together, okay? I'd love, and Annabelle, that would be great. The only thing is, I've got to explain for those that don't get it, yeah? But I really appreciate the offer. All right, shall we go through it? All right, so let's talk about this question. It says Damien is following a recipe. He empties 3/4 of a 500-gram bag of flour into a bowl. He then adds 1/5 of a 200-gram bag of sugar to the same bowl. The bowl, when empty, oh, that should be weighed. I do apologize, guys. Weighs 240 grams. How much does the bowl and its contents weigh altogether? Must apologise for the typos in that question there. Hopefully it was still understood. I'm sure it was. All right, so we need to think about what it's asking us here. And we know that it's asking us to figure out, once we've got all these ingredients into a bowl, how much does the whole thing weigh? So the bowl included, okay? So, first step, he empties 3/4 of a 500-gram bag of flour into a bowl. Okay, now remember, you don't do these drawings and stuff in an exam. Okay, but you could probably just write the number 500. I'm just doing it to be a little bit more illustrative. Okay, so 500 grams. Now he empties 3/4 of that into a bowl, so we need to figure out what 3/4 is of 500 grams. Okay, so 3/4 of 500 grams. Now, do you remember, I should have left it on the screen, I'll leave it on the screen for next time. Do you remember the method? We do quantity divided by denominator multiplied by numerator. Hopefully I don't forget to hopefully I leave that on there for the next question. Okay, so to find 3/4 of 500 grams, I need to do quantity divided by denominator multiplied by numerator. Okay, now, we need to do 500, the quantity, divided by 4. Okay, so let's do it. 500 divided by 4. So let's work this bit out. Just going to change the pen colour. All right, so 4 goes into 5 once. 4 times 1 is 4, and we wanted to get to 5, so I've got a remainder of 1. Let's put that there. How many times does 4 go into 10? 4. 8, it goes twice. 4 times 2 is 8. We wanted to get to 10. We have a remainder of 2. So that becomes 20. How many times does 4 go into 20? It goes 5 times. And there's no remainder. So 500 divided by 4 is 125. Then we need to multiply by the numerator. So 125 multiplied by 3. So 125 times 3. Now, I reckon, and if you don't, do not worry, but most might know how to do the column method with multiplication. If you can't, please practice that. But I don't want to waste your time. If we do the column method for this question, we're going to get 375, okay? So 3/4 of 500 grams must be 375 grams. So let's keep that on the screen. And I'll write the process on the top again in a minute, okay? So that's how much flour was emptied into the bowl. All right, next bit says, he then adds 1/5 of a 200-gram bag of sugar to the same bowl. So we need to find 1/5 of 200 grams. Okay, Annabelle, how do we find 1/5 of 200 grams?
For 1/5 of 200 grams, you need to do 200 divided by 5, which is 40. And then you do 40 times 1, which is the same answer. So the answer is 40.
Amazing, very, very good. Perfect, Annabelle. All right, so we found how much flour was emptied into the bowl and how much sugar was emptied into the bowl. But remember, the question asks us to also consider the weight of the bowl itself. And it says that when the bowl is empty, when it has no ingredients in it, that weighs 240 grams. So we have to count that. That's important because the end of the question says how much does the bowl, which should say bowl, and its contents weigh altogether. So we've got the size, we've got the weight of the flour, of the sugar, and the bowl. All we need to do is combine them. So 375 plus 240 plus 40. Now, again, you know how to do the column method. If you don't, do practice that on this website. But the answer we're going to get is 655 grams. Okay, that's our answer. So well done if you said that, and if you didn't, please do not worry. Okay, we're practicing, we will get there. All right, ready for number 3? All right, 2 minutes, guys. Here's number 3. Okay, 30 seconds. All right, well done, Scarlett. Well done, Jacob. Well done, Chrissy. Well done, Annabelle. All right, let's talk about the answer. Okay, all right. I wonder, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I wonder if Chrissy wants to give us a bit of help with this one. Chrissy, do you want to explain it or not?
I'll explain it.
Perfect.
So first you have to first you have to see that you have to read the question, which is Amy is recording data about goals scored at a football tournament, she finds that 1/7 of the goals scored were headers. If 5 goals were headers, how many goals were scored in total? So what you have to do is, since 5 of the goals were headers, you have to do 5 times 1/7, which would be 35.
Okay, cool. Why would we do 5 times 1/7? You are right, but
Because
why?
1/7 of the goals that were scored were headers, and 5 of the goals were headers. So
Cool. All right, yeah, cool. Well done. Perfect. Um, okay, great. Yeah, Chris is absolutely correct. I'm going to show you one other way of looking at it, though, if it helps. And that would be, think of it this way, right? We know that when it comes to fractions, if we're talking about halves, right, we know that we need 2 halves for a whole. And we need 3/3 for a whole, don't we? Yeah? And we need 4/4 for a whole. All right, bear with me, guys. So that's really important to think about, especially with questions like this, because it means we need 7/7 for a whole, for the total. In other words, how many goals were scored in total, right? Now, it says that 1/7 of the goals scored were headers. Okay? And as we just discussed, we know that 7 of these would make a whole, would make the total amount of goals scored. So 1/7, 1/7, 1/7, 1/7, 1/7, 1/7. It's a bit tedious, I do apologise, guys, but it might make a couple of you understand if you didn't already, okay? All right, so if we add all those together, we get a whole, 7/7, okay? Now, as Chrissy said, 1/7 is equal to 5 goals. So to find the total number of goals, I can do a bit of repeated addition here, or I could do multiplication. Yeah, I could do 5 times 7, or 5 goals plus 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 5 goals. Either way, the answer is going to be the same. And the answer is 35 goals. Okay, well done if you said that. And even if you didn't, please, please, please do not worry. Do not be angry at yourself. Just keep going. You've got this, okay? All right, ready for the next one? 2 minutes, guys. Wow, Annabelle, that's super, super quick. Very good. Amazing Chrissy, fantastic. Okay, 30 seconds. Amazing Scarlett. Guys, this is absolutely fantastic today. I just saw your message, Scarlett, saying, can you say something? Of course, give 20 more seconds and then we'll go through it. All right, shall we go through it? Okay, Scarlett, what is it you wanted to say? Was it about the last question or this question?
Last question. Can I just say it?
Yeah, of course.
The last question, could you go back to it, please?
Mm-hmm.
So, if the numbers are 5 and 7 are only factors or only both factors of one number, 35.
Oh, that's a very, very mathematical way of looking at things. Very good, and good language as well. Very, very good language. Well done, Scarlett. Well noticed. All right.
It's obvious.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You say it's obvious. Not to everyone. Just give yourself some credit. You're bright. All right. So let's go through this question. Perfect, Jacob. All right. So it says a school assembly has 400 students. That's obviously going to be an important number, isn't it? So let's write it down. And even if it's not important, well, what's the harm in writing it down anyway? 1/10 of the students are not wearing a tie. Okay, so let's work out how many students are not wearing a tie. It's 1/10 of all of the students. So 1/10 of 400. Okay, and look, I've forgotten to put the process up there again. I really do apologize, guys. It's, you know, when I clear the screen, it's very sometimes difficult for me to remember that everything goes. All right. All right, so quantity divided by denominator times numerator. So to find out how many of the students are not wearing a tie, we need to do 1/10 of 400. Okay, so 400 divided by denominator multiplied by the numerator. So 400 divided by 10 is 40. And 40 multiplied by 1 is still 40, isn't it? So 1/10 of the students are not wearing a tie. That means 40 students are not wearing a tie. Let's write that down here. That sounds like it's going to be important, okay? So 40, I'm going to write not wearing a tie. And we can do that in maths, can't we? Just write letters, anything that helps jog our memory if we need it later on. Okay, of the students who are wearing ties, okay, so we need to work out how many are wearing ties. Well, there's 400 students altogether. 40 are not wearing ties. The rest are wearing ties. So therefore, 360 must be wearing ties. So I'm going to write WT, wearing ties. Okay. So of the students that are wearing ties, so out of all these lot, the 360, 50 are wearing a golden tie. So 50 golden tie. The remaining students are wearing the school's standard navy tie. So we need to take 50 away from 360. The reason for that is because 360 are the students that are definitely wearing a tie. Okay, 50 of those that are wearing a tie are wearing the golden tie, and the rest are wearing the navy tie. So let's take 50 away from 360. We're only left with those that are wearing the standard navy tie. So 360 subtract 50 is 310. So that's our answer. And you know what? Most of you said 310, which is great. But I did notice the answer 410, and that's not a bad answer. Now you might be a bit annoyed at yourself because it's not correct, but you shouldn't be, because the fact that you were only one out in one place, yeah. You won't want to remember. It's easy to say you were 100 out, but not really, because the way to look at it is all the numbers were correct except for the first one. You were one out, okay? Which means you did everything right. Something along the way went wrong, just one tiny thing. So that's really, really good. So do not worry, okay? Just keep going. You've got this. All right, guys, are you ready for the penultimate question? What does penultimate mean? What does penultimate mean? George, what does penultimate mean?
Does it mean the hardest?
It sounds like that, firstly, because it's like a tricky word, and also it fits the context, doesn't it? That's what someone might say. Now for the hardest question. But actually, it means something else. Let me ask. Jacob, what does penultimate mean?
I think it means the last question.
The last question, maybe. I'm going to ask Hannah. Hannah, penultimate? penultimate. Don't know. Let's go for Emma, maybe? Emma? It's turned into an English lesson.
Maybe penultimate means uh, maybe it's like doesn't really have the same content as the other last questions.
Maybe. It could be a completely different question. That's a really good idea. Scarlett, what do you reckon it means?
I think it means like the ultimate question or like the champion question.
Like the hardest one. Could be. Could be. I've got Annabelle and Chrissy left to ask. Annabelle, what do you reckon it means?
Last question.
Sorry?
Second to last question.
Second to last. Perfect. Sorry, Chrissy, I didn't quite get to you. We just got the answer in time. Penultimate means second to last. Second to last, okay? So well done, Annabelle. And what I'm really impressed with is you had a go. Yeah, you're not going to know what every single word means. I don't know what every single word means, okay? And there's no one that knows what every single word means, so don't worry about that. But now you do. Penultimate means second to last, okay? So are you ready for the second to last question, the penultimate question? Here we go. Okay, 20 seconds left. Let's take a look at your answers. Perfect, Annabelle. Perfect, Chrissy. Guys, when you send your answers, just send it the one time, okay? Um, that's all right, Chrissy. Don't worry. Just so you're aware, George and Hannah, I can't see. It's fine if you're just doing it on paper, but I can't see any answers from you. That's fine. If you're doing your own thing, you put it on paper, or you're just watching, that's absolutely fine. I'm only telling you just in case you think that I can see your answers, okay? I can't see anything from you. Let's go through it now. Now, it could be that you found this one much easier than the other ones. I'll be honest with you, this one didn't really involve reasoning. It's kind of just a straightforward word problem, yeah? So it says find 1/10 of the total of the numbers from 0 to 10. What that means is we've got to get the total of the numbers from 0 to 10. That means the sum, all of them added together. And then we need to find 1/10 of that, of the total. So the first step is to do this bit. Now, this might seem like an easy thing to do, yeah? Let's quickly write it out. 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10. It might seem easy to add those together, but actually, I know I've said this to you before, it's usually the easier questions where we slip up a little bit. Yeah, we sometimes go wrong. When things seem too easy, we kind of rush them, and that's when we make mistakes, okay? So make sure you do add very carefully. And what I like to do is always add the largest numbers first and then go to the smallest, a bit easier, because then we're adding sort of smaller numbers onto larger numbers, okay? So 10 plus 9 gives me 19. 19 plus 8 gives me 27. 27 plus 7 is 34. 34 plus 6 is 40. 40 plus 5 is 45. 45 plus 4 is 49. 49 plus 3 is 52. 52 plus 2 is 54. 54 plus 1 is 55. And 55 plus 0 is still 55. So the answer is 55, okay? But we're not done. We need to find 1/10 of 55. So, who am I going to go to? I'm trying to think. Have I spoken to you all? Hannah, do you want to give this one a go? Do you know 1/10 of 55? Do you want me to ask someone else? Shall we ask Emma? Emma, what is 1/10 of 55? No, Emma? Do you want me to ask someone else? Let's go for George.
Is it so 55 divided by 10, 5 goes into 10 0 times, so we put the 5 into the other 5, which will become 55, and 55 divided by 10, we can do 5, so 10 goes into 55 5 times, remainder 5. So, and then if we times that by 1, it will be 55, remainder 55. So could we do it like this? 50, like 5.5, could it do that?
Oh, interesting. I'm going to tell you if you're correct in a minute, George. Now, George, I loved how much you thought about that. But actually, do you know what? And I'll ask someone in a minute to help me with this. When it comes to dividing by 10, we don't actually even have to bother with the bus stop method or any method actually. When we divide by 10, there's something much simpler we can do, save us a lot of time. Scarlett, what is it we can do if we're dividing by 10?
Okay.
What you taught us on the first lesson was if when you're dividing by 10, you put a decimal point at the end, then move it one place because we're dividing by 10.
And what would that number say?
5.5.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well done, Scarlett. Was that the very first lesson?
Yes.
Ooh, your memory is very good. 5.5. That's the answer. And then, of course, we need to get that and multiply it by 1. Okay, so 5.5 multiplied by 1 is still going to be 5.5. Okay, so the answer is 5.5. Okay. All right. George, write in the screen, please. Okay, right, guys, you've been amazing. We've got one more question to go. Okay, you're doing really, really, really well. We've done our penultimate question, which means we're on to the final question, our last question. Okay, so give this one a go, and then we're all done. And remember, there's no pressure at all on getting everything correct. The only thing you got to focus on is if you are finding anything tough, just try and practice it a bit. Okay, so here's our final question. Okay. Very good, Annabelle. Annabelle, how are you doing this so quickly? Yeah, I can see your. I can see your. Oh, George, that's why you're writing on the screen. My bad. I feel awful. I can see your message now. Yeah, I couldn't see it earlier. Hannah, I still can't see your messages. Um, I don't know. Maybe if you're using an older version of Zoom, maybe I'm not too sure. Um, I'll send you a message if it helps, but I can't see yours. And anyway, guys, if we're just writing our answers on some lined paper, that's all right. You don't have to put it in the group chat. It's just a bit more helpful for me. That's all. Okay. Let's have another 30 seconds, guys. Then we'll go through it. Okay. All right. Perfect, Scarlett. That's correct. Just waiting for a couple more answers. All right, let's go through it. Let's go through it. Do not worry if you did not get it correct, okay? Watch carefully. So a box contains 360 pencils. That's clearly going to be important to the question. I'm going to write that down. 1/6 of the pencils are red. So 1/6 are red. Okay, now let's try something here, right? Let's try something. And if you can't do what I'm about to show you, you don't have to. You can always write your working out down. But I'm going to try and find 1/6 kind of like mentally. So you know earlier how we were writing down the quantity, the denominator, and the numerator. I'm going to just sort of do it all in my head. Now this is a tactic that we're often taught to do, if possible, with easier questions, so that it saves us time. But we don't have to. We can write stuff down, okay? But I'm going to do this bit in my head. So 1/6 of 360. Well, I know that I've got to do 360, which is the quantity, divided by 6, the denominator. Okay? Is there an easy way of doing 360 divided by 6 in our heads? Let me ask Jacob. Jacob, how might I do 360 divided by 6 in my head without doing any working out?
Since 36 divided by 6 is 6,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 10 more, 360,
10 times
then
bigger, perfect.
you just do the answer just because you do then 6 times 10, which is 60.
Perfect. Yeah, very good. If I know my number facts in my times tables, if I know that 36 divided by 6 is 6, well, 360 is 10 times bigger than 36. So I've just got to get my answer and multiply that by 10. Yeah. So 360 divided by 6 must be 60. Therefore, 60 pencils are red. So 60. And right, 60 R. As long as you know what you mean, that's all that matters. I know that 60 equals R means 60 red pencils. I don't care what an examiner thinks. I know what it means. That's all that matters. Okay. The next part says 1/4 of the remaining pencils are blue. Now that word is really important. Remaining is really important. Okay. Annabelle, can you talk us through this next bit? It says 1/4 of the remaining pencils are blue. What does that mean and what's the answer?
Remaining means 1/4 of the remaining pencils are blue. Remaining means like the thing that you've worked out already. So 60, 1/4, you need to do 1/4 of 60.
Nearly, kind of. With the remaining okay. Um, so it says 1/6 of the pencils are red. 1/4 of the remaining pencils are blue. So we're not talking about the red pencils here. We're talking about the remaining pencils. So what might remaining mean in that context, Annabelle?
Oh, is it 360?
No, so we had 360 altogether, didn't we? We found
Yeah.
out that 1/6 are red, and that of the remaining pencils, 1/4 are blue. So what might the remaining pencils be? So
Oh, the remaining pencils is 300 because
right.
you need to take away 60 from 360, which is 300. So you need to do 1/4 take away 1/4 of 300.
Amazing, fantastic, very very good. All right, Chrissy. Talking of which, what is 1/4 of 300?
Um, 1/4 of 300 is. I don't know.
No problem. That is a very tricky thing to be asked on the spot. It's very very tricky. George, do you know 1/4 of 300? And if not, guys, we can use the bus stop method, can't we?
Yeah, I'll try. So, is it fine if I write on the screen?
I tell you what, you can guide me. So, what do you want me to do? 300. What should I do with that?
Bus stop.
George, if you just let me write, if that's all right, just so I can make it clear for everyone. So you just tell me
Okay, so do bus stop. You just, yeah. And now add the 4 next to, like, here.
Yeah, I'm dividing by 4. Okay, cool.
Now, draw an arrow like that goes above 3, and 4 goes into 3 0 times. So we write 0, and then you write 4 down near the 0.
4? Are you sure it's 4 right here?
No, 3. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. No, so yeah, before you carry on, George, you're right. I can write 3 here so it becomes 30. Or another thing I could do is just carry it over and like not do anything. It doesn't matter what we choose. So let's do that. So now it becomes 30. What do I do?
Now when it's 30, sorry. Now when it's 30, 40 goes into 30. 4 goes into 30. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. 7 times 4 is 28. And so we're gonna have to write 7. And now
Perfect.
there's remaining 2. So we do it to the next 0, which will become 20, and 4 goes into 25 times.
Amazing. Well explained, George. It's not easy to explain that because it's so easy to get lost whilst we're explaining things to people. So you did a really good job there. All right, 1/4 of the remaining pencils are blue. We've just found 1/4 of the remaining pencils. George told us it was 75. Okay, so 75 equals blue. And how annoying is that I've written the red pencils in blue and the blue pencils in red? That's really confused me. But I have to live with it, don't I? Obviously, in an exam, you'll be using pencils, so it won't confuse you. All right, so now it says the rest of the pencils are green. We found out the red pencils. We found out the blue pencils. We now need to find out the how many green pencils there are in the box. So for the final time, how am I going to do that? How am I going to find out how many are green? Let's go to Scarlett. Scarlett, how many are green?
So what you have to do to find out is you take away 300. You take away 75 from 300, which is 225.
So 300. Sorry, I'm just trying to write my screen, but something like. All right, 300. All right, first of all, why this number? Why 300?
Because that was the other number that we had when we did it, the equations.
Perfect. Yeah, very, very good. That's very, very clever because what some students would do is they would find, is they would sort of kind of like go back to that number. They'd forget what they'd done, but you did a really good thing, which is to remember that we've only got 300 pencils left at this point. Okay. So we need to find. Yeah, you're right. We took 75 away from 300 and
Yes,
we're left with the remainder. Which what did you say? Sorry, Scarlett.
225. But
200.
another way you could do it is to add, so we've got 360 remaining. So we've got, the total number was 360. If you added 75 and 60 from 360, so if 75 and 60 is 135, take that away from 360, you'd also get 225.
Amazing. I love that you guys know more than one way of doing things. That's really important. So we're done, guys. Now, what I'd like to do before we finish is, can you quickly send to me a number in the chat box? How do you feel about today? 0 means you did not get it at all. 10 means that you thought that you were brilliant, very, very confident. 5 means you're somewhere in the middle. So choose a number from 0 to 10. What number do you think best describes you?